Just a reminder before today's programme that if you haven't seen the previous episode of the Ident Review Extra, it can still be viewed here on AMTV, and that episode was, of course, the ever-popular Dog. And now, here on AMTV, time for the latest instalment of the Ident Review Extra, and this time, hold on to those strings, we're going to fly some balloons. Hello, and welcome to the Ident Review Extra, the spin-off show that takes a look at one individual ident each episode and gives it the review it deserves. And today we continue our marathon through the BBC2 idents of the 1990s. Today on our BBC2 journey, we look at another main ident that occupied the airwaves, but this one, despite being part of the second wave alongside idents like Car and Dog, didn't reach the same heights in terms of longevity and even creativity. Without further ado, I present to you the wonderfully simple balloon. Well, what is there to say about this? I think this is honestly one of those idents that is the definition of what you see is what you get. There's no setup, no build, nothing to represent a journey. It's literally just a balloon that's in the shape of the familiar 2, floating around in a deep blue sky. At first I thought this was going to be one of few BBC2 idents from the 90s to not feature the aqua blue colour that permeates through most of the sequences from the era, but upon closer inspection, if you look closely, you can indeed see the aqua blue hue on the string that's holding onto the balloon itself. Very subtle touch.
Recalling events from a record-breaking journey now, BBC2 boldly goes where others fear to tread, in the determined footsteps of Fiona Campbell's longest walk.
Despite it arguably having a strong final image, there isn't really much of anything to this ident. The sky that this balloon seemingly occupies doesn't even look like a real sky. Now granted, that might not have been the intention that the designers were going for, but if it was, you would have thought achieving a realistic looking sky wouldn't have been too difficult. Also, it would have been nice had the background been adorned with something, whether that had been maybe more 2 balloons of different sizes and colours, I don't know, just something to bring the sequence to life a bit more. Because after the initial first few seconds when you see the balloon and clock that it's shaped as the 2, then that's really it as far as retention goes for me.
Here on BBC2, a man with a mission to investigate beer. A difficult job, but someone's got to do it.
Balloon debuted in late 1993 and would last until 1997, seemingly not surviving the corporate rebrand that the BBC underwent that year. Here's a clip from that final year on air in 1997.
2 spoonfuls of The Simpsons for BBC2 Sunday lunch. In dollop number 1, Homer's in need of intelligence.
Despite not being one of the most interesting or longest running of the 90s 2s, when they were recommissioned to represent BBC2 in 2015, surprisingly, Balloon was one ident that made a reappearance. Let's take a look at how this sequence is in HD.
We celebrate the success of Julie Walters at 10:30 here on BBC2 Northern Ireland. Now though, Maggie Smith is the diva and the show must go on. There's some strong language in tonight's film comedy, Quartet.
Whilst it does look quite nice to see this sequence in high definition, sadly higher quality cannot inject any sort of life and intrigue into what is a very standard ident at best. It's not that I don't like Balloon, it carries on the iconic 2 design and has music that is keeping with the era, but aside from these cues, this ident really doesn't have anything else to offer. It's like they needed one more sequence and this is what they could slap together as a last resort. I'm glad it got a chance to air once again in the mid-2010s, because I'm sure Balloon has those out there who really enjoy it, despite its extreme simplicity. And at the same time Balloon originally went off air in 1997, the idea of a balloon would go on to represent BBC One that same year, lasting for 5 years up until 2002. So whether this was a tester for that concept or not, it's fair to say that Balloon has its place amongst the vast pantheon of BBC2 idents from the 1990s. And so we've come to the end, but before we go, the final words from our broadcaster. That was the Ident Review Extra. We hope you enjoyed and that you tune in next time. Keep an eye on the Community tab and the Sunday catch-up for further news about this programme, as well as others here on AMTV. But until next time, have a good week, and we hope that you'll join us again soon. Good night.